Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West. We give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it. So let's waste no time, folks. Woo-wee! Let's get to it. Story number 1, zoning change in Canfield. JT White House has a report published March 21st in what appears to be an approval of a zoning change. Now, city council members at their meeting Wednesday, as stated in the report, approved amending the B3 zoning district to include more uses, with no one attending the public hearing. Nobody attended. Now, the permitted use for the B3 zoning district will be for retail sales and services, branch or drive-in banking, restaurants, which will be non-drive-through, business offices, professional offices, cafes, and bars. Folks, the report also cites conditional permitted uses for automobile service stations, drive-in restaurants, hotels, theaters, and commercial recreational facilities. Story number 2, 10 fire departments get a boost. According to a Mediator report published March 22nd, 10 Mahoning Valley fire departments are set to receive grants. The spread is $2.5 million. The funds will be distributed through the 2025 Equipment and Training Reimbursement Grant Program. Story number 3, another speed camera concern. Bob Coupland has a report published March 25th stating that Girard Municipal Court, effective April 1st, will raise speed camera ticket costs from $10 to $20 per ticket. And what got the story in is the fact that in January and February alone, speed camera collections were at $77,324, with Girard placing 46% of the money in the general fund and 19% in the street fund and 3% in the Wellman Theater funds. They're making money. Now, the ripple effect of the continued revenue stream that local communities opt to buy into by using the cameras is what is keeping the story in the headlines. Story number 4, $2.7 million in federal funds. Raymond L. Smith has a headline focusing on how Trumbull County is seeking $2.7 million in federal funds for projects. The projects include obtaining $500,000 to do a Mosquito Lake Interceptor preliminary engineering study. Look it up. $1,263,000 to complete the Trumbull County Planning Commission and Recorder Archives building. Now, and I guess a 185 East Market Street, and I guess they're going to take $1 million more for the Crane Drive sanitary sewer project in Wethersfield. So I guess that other one is taking place at 185 East Market Street, and the next one is taking place in Wethersfield, folks. The article also informs the reader about projects that have already been taking place with ARP funds, and the money requested for improvements is what got the story here. Story number 5, water rate increase I guess they're talking about it in Trumbull County. And this was before the airing of this show. They were having some discussions about meeting in, I think it was on the 26th. Now, before the airing of this show, in an article, I believe the article was published March 26th by Raymond L. Smith. Now, Trumbull County commissioners were voting on a possible water rate increase of $12 per 1,000 gallons for customers receiving county water beginning April 1st. Now, they were able to knock the previous rate hike suggested that, I guess they knocked it down 50 cents, so it's now at $12. Now, that's what got the story in the top 8, because this has not made a lot of people happy, the fact that they're raising the water rate. Story number 6, another unusual shooting death in Youngstown. Ed Runyon has a report published March 25th explaining how a 14-year-old Youngstown kid was arraigned Monday in Mahoning County Juvenile Court in a murder case for a fatal shooting that took place Sunday afternoon on Redondo Avenue. On the west side of Youngstown. What, why, or how a kid could murder someone in cold blood is what got the story here. Story number 7 of the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that I made this week for you to keep you informed. Folks, if you do not get up this early, you can check out the show. I do upload it on Mondays to the website. If you don't get up early Sundays, you can't do it. You get out of bed and then you just turn back over and fall asleep. You see me smiling, you turn back over and just fall asleep. You see me talking about the top 8, you turn back over and go to sleep. You can get up on Monday morning. I put on the website for all the world to enjoy. A little man who is trying to do something positive with his time. All you have to do is contribute. Stay informed. Story number 7. Local schools concerned about the Department of Education cuts. The Vindicator has a headline published March 26 by David Skolnick explaining how U.S. Rep. Michael Ruley plans to introduce legislation that would enforce President Trump's federal Department of Education plans. Now, this story has the attention of the Ohio educators because if such cuts takes place, local public school districts will feel the burn. Now, Trump has already signed an executive order to eliminate the department, but the plan now is to free up about $268 billion, which would go to the states and local school districts. That's what the report says. But Ruley explains in the report that the state and local control of the schools is a good thing, and goes on to say that the Department of Education doesn't do some things to public schools. They don't do anything to the public schools in the 611 school district. I guess that's what the report is trying to say. I guess they're trying to say that there's not much that this has to do with the 611 school district, but there's some other things that take place. The statement contradicts a report that made headlines last week stating that Boardman and Austintown both received millions from the Department of Education. I hope this all makes sense, but there's just a lot of things that one thing is saying one thing and another thing is saying another. The report goes on to say that federal funds make up about 14% of the public schools budget. Now, Ruley goes on to say how his bill will protect Title I funds, which help low-income families. Now, the report is definitely worth a read for those wanting to know more about what is taking place in the education funding arena. Story number 8, and the top local headline and developing news story that I made this week for you to keep you informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support, some support that does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face in the store. Folks, while everybody is sleeping in their beds, I am looking underneath the bed to see if I can find a story. Story number 8, local healthcare facilities collapse. This is the top headlines. Now, for the second week in a row, Insight Trumbull is in top headlines. Now, this is in a report published by Pat Littlewitz and on March 25th. Now, the facility has paused its local operations and temporarily furloughed its workers, according to the report. Now, the article did say that the emergency room and radiology services remain in motion. That means that they're still operating, along with limited lab availability. Now, this is what the article said. I don't know what's happening now as of the airing of this show. Now, Insight Hospital and Medical Center Trumbull, Insight Rehabilitation Hospital Hillside, and Austintown and Elm Road outpatient centers are all listed in the report. Now, it appears that the president, Dr. Greg Gauss, has stepped down from his post. Now, this is adding more uncertainty to this report. Now, the article does say that Stewart Health that their bankruptcy, Stewart Health Care's bankruptcy proceeding has something to do with what is taking place when it comes to a number of local healthcare facilities collapsing. Folks, this story is still trending. It is definitely an eye opener, because you're talking about jobs and the fact that it's just not good business during the rate, and good health. That's not good when you see hospitals closed during the rate. Big headline. Well, folks, those are top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines, developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. Folks, this week we're talking about depression and how some people experience depression. And it's amazing how the human mind works. You know, I've learned that whenever you try to, and this goes for maybe Elon and Trump and the Republican Party right now, because as somebody who has lived a life in poverty and seen little bitty chunks of money here and there along my lifetime, what I've noticed that every time I've tried to save money, I've ended up having to spend more money. And anytime I got ahead, I ended up finding myself 2 steps behind, because something always costs or something always comes up, you know. And the more you try to plan for this big, successful, rich, wealthy life, the more you find out that it's very, very hard to reach. Now, depression is a factor in this, because when you're depressed, you try to pull these levers and you think that you need something or need a change. Well, sometimes it's just the pieces are right in front of you. So they have these issues where they're just slashing, and Elon gets up, you know, one morning and just goes in and with this Department of Doge. But I guess the fact is that there's rules, you know, to these games, and there's rules to depression, you know. And one rule is that if you don't want to start a Great Depression, you don't mess with economics and people's Social Security, because older people, there was a show where you know, older people can be depressed until you start messing with their money. Then they'll get a little bit of excitement, and they'll fall to the floor, and they'll have to have somebody pick them up. That's how it works. You know, Elon's messing with my soldier, I'm gonna kill him, and they fall back. But that's older folks, you know. So you get a little bit of excitement, a little bit of adrenaline, but it messes with your heart, you know. Healthcare, you know, if you're not getting Social Security, you don't have any way to pay for it, or Medicaid, you know, Medicare. So the thing is, why pick on older folks, especially when they earn this money? I was listening to the radio, and I heard a lady. She had probably never called a radio show in her lifetime, but when she heard, oh God, Elon's gonna take Social Security, she called in, frustrated, and she had been waiting for this moment, you know, because nobody wants to see Social Security. But Social Security is a factor of, it's a cure for depression, because if you don't have money, if anybody's been in a relationship, you know, been with somebody, and if you don't have money, it's just depressing. You have intimate thoughts, you have intimate sex, and when you roll over, it's just like, if you don't have any money, it's like, you get in arguments, and then you get tired of each other. But if you can't pay the bills, you're constantly arguing. Even when you have the money, it makes it a little bit easier, because you could just go leave. When you don't have any money, you can't leave. You try to go for a walk, you can't afford shoes. You're just greasy. So depression is a symptom of what we're seeing. You get rich, you get richer, and you got nothing else to do. but just pick on people who have literally nothing but a thought and a prayer, and maybe a few books that they don't have the spirit to read because they have nothing else better to do with their time. So, but watch sports and do something that's very, very unconstructive. So this week we're talking about depression. You know, people who I notice that never get depressed are rap artists. Some of them do, but I mean, most of them just come out, hoodie hoes, cars and clothes. That's how all my partners roll. That's how we ride the shorty. You know, even rap artists get you out of depression. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to story number one. What about the fishing industry? Are they going through depression? Reuters has an article about the industry that is often overlooked, which is the fishing industry. The report homes in on how Trump's regulatory freeze is throwing the U.S. fishing industry into chaos. The report has a brief summary list that really gives the reader an understanding of what is taking place by explaining how Trump's regulatory freeze risk is delaying the start of several lucrative fisheries. Now, the article cites cash shortfalls as fish migrate north and federal government job cuts that could impact the NOAA fisheries management and stock assessments. Now, the simple fact is that this is a $320 billion fishing industry that relies on the federal government, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The article's main focus is what altering effect this is having on the fishing season, folks. This story is still developing. Story number two. The U.S. Postal Service is still in top headlines. USPS chief, the U.S. Postal Service's chief, Louis DeJoy, has resigned, according to a Washington Post article. Now, this is in an effort by Trump to overhaul the U.S. Postal Service, which continues to lose money. Now, the tension that was evident between DeJoy and the Trump administration over Doge is what got this story in. Now, DeJoy stood up against Doge and would not allow access to the agency's system. But in the long run, he ended up deciding to resign. Now, this is according to 4 people familiar with the interactions. Folks, this story is still developing. Story number 3, the cost of the American dream. As more and more retailers hit the bankruptcy lines, here is a stat to keep an eye on. The American dream, combined with home ownership, raising children, and retirement, now cost about $4.4 million, according to a recent Investopedia analysis. Now, with Trump's America First agenda, the question now is, will it get any cheaper to achieve the American dream? Probably no. Now, this story made it in because in this 4-year term, in Trump's 4-year term that is geared at driving businesses back to the heartland, the biggest question now is, will it get any easier for those looking to improve their standard of living? Folks, this story made it in because 27 Kohl's stores are set to close, according to a USA Today report, and many more are downsizing. That's getting this story to the top. Story number 4, economics weathers. That means it's one day is up, one day is down. Politico has an opinion piece by Edward Fishman, who I guess he brings Trump back down to earth when it comes to tariffs. Now, he goes on to explain how we are living in an age of economic warfare. Now, the piece goes on to say that sanctions, tariffs, and exports control are now the primary weapons great powers wield against one another. Now, what makes the article interesting is the fact that it labels the world economics as being in a contest, and says that it says that the key to geopolitical power is control over choke points, which are critical nodes in the global economy, where one nation holds a dominant position and alternatives are scarce or non-existent. That makes sense. Now, word for word, it goes on to say in this report that countries that control these choke points command extraordinary leverage, as they can deny others access to them and devastate their economies. Is it starting to make sense yet? Now, the piece says that in today's world, the U.S. financial system is a choke point. The main talking point is that the U.S. no longer needs to commit to costly naval blockades or secure UN consensus to impose punishing sanctions on other countries, which chokes us along with them, and goes on to say that the Trump administration, well, Trump doesn't grasp this one point, folks. The report uses Nixon as an example. That's what's number 4 made this week, because they're saying that economics can be controlled by choke points, and when you have these choke points and you decide to threaten other people, all it does is choke everybody until they strangulation. There's no air. Well, folks, there are top 4 international headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'm right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, me, Brian West. I'm right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week, folks. Motivated. Even though the world seems to be going to hell every week, I'm motivated. Gotta stay motivated. I mean, even when I remember when we was playing sports with young kids, I told them, they said, Brian, we're losing. Man, we're losing. Why are we even out here? We are losing. We are losing, Brian. See, we're not losing. The other team is tired. They're limping. They're winning. But we got to be motivated to play another day. Every week we go and lose. But you got to be motivated. Stay motivated. Do you think Putin is not motivated? Do you think Kim Jong-un is not? Do you think all these people have to get up every day and serve the American people? Do you think they're not motivated? You gotta stay motivated. Motivated to lose money? Every week, football players go to practice for one game that many of them lose, work hard, top tier. Only probably 2,000 people make it to the pros. But they have to stay motivated! Let's waste no time, folks. Motivation. That's the key this week. Staying motivated. Feeling dangerous, baby. Let's waste no time. Let's get to story number 5. The wrath of war turns heads to some ugly truths. Folks, people are dying. The Gaza Strip, but somehow you got to get up when your body is weak and tired. This is sad, folks. The wrath of war has some ugly truths, folks. If you did not know, the Washington Post has a headline explaining how Gaza's death toll has topped 50,000 as Israel strikes a hospital targeting Hamas. Now, we got the story in is the number. 50,000 Palestinian people have been killed in Israel's military campaign in the Gaza Strip, according to the Enclave's health ministry. Now, the ugly truth is that in Israel's effort to eradicate Hamas, it has caused the death of a lot of people who are in the way, which is not good. Now, the article goes on to explain everything taking place in this gruesome war that seems to have no end. Story number 6. The list includes the Affordable Care Act. The Hill has a headline explaining how the Affordable Care Act is on the Republican ticket to be dismantled, according to an article by Tiffany D. Joseph. Now, the fact that the Affordable Care Act is in its 50th year and succeeded at reducing the country's uninsured rate to 8.2% in 2024 from 15% in 2013 before it was implemented is what got the story in. Now, the article is a must read and highlights some very informative talking points about health care coverage, along with some stats that may be overlooked in a piece of legislation that was unpopular at first, but is now the centerpiece of a debate on if it's working, then why is it being dismantled. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week for you to keep you informed. That's what it is. That's what it is, bro. Well, if you do not get up this early, you can check out the show. I do upload to the website on Monday. So if you don't get up this early, you can check out the show on Monday. Story number 7. What if the strategy was to drain America's central bank? If Russia's war with Ukraine has done anything, it has been draining the world's bank. NBC News has a headline explaining how Trump's promise of a quick end to the Ukraine war got a sad reality check after talks ended with no deal. Now, this story could reveal a sinister plan by Putin the entire time. Now, maybe his plan was to use Ukraine as a battleground to empty out the hero war chest and then make his power moves. Could that be the strategy? Who knows? Story number 8 at the top. International headline and developing news story that I made this week, folks. If you want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you can stop by the store at 5648 Market Street and see my smiling face in the store. Story number 8. America has bills to pay and has bills too. The Hill has a headline focusing once again on America's bills. The headline says that the U.S. could default on its debt as soon as July. Now, the last debt limit increase came under Biden in 2023. The debt limit is a cap on how much money the Treasury can owe to pay the country's bills. Now, at the moment, the strategy seems to be a special maneuver by Republicans known as budget reconciliation to handle the debt ceiling, along with extending Trump's signature tax cuts set to expire this year. This is all word for word in the report. Now, the fact that the debt ceiling timeline could complicate plans is what got this story in, folks. That's making story number 8 a top story, because if you keep printing out money, where will the money go? Will it go to the drug dealer? Will it go to other countries? Will it come back to America? Big question. Will it be in the banks? Will it go to the black community? Will it go to the white community, Puerto Rican community? I'm sure you understand economics. The money just keeps printing, keeps printing. Well, folks, there are top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. I hope you got something out of this program. I always get something out of the research. As usual, I thank all the news outlets, the journalists, people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the man in the middle, the mediator, navigating your stories to keep people informed. Folks, well, I am out of here. I hope you have a good week. And don't forget to show some support by stopping at the store 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, or going to the website, buying something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Well, folks, I am out of here. Have a good week. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator. Be Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.